fix all that. We're going to fix it. And going forward, you're not going to have those problems because we're responsive and we're going to take care of you. And we're going to make this a nice place for you to live. And the guy said, wow, that's great. That's really good. So that really is the win-win. We do what we say and we fix things. So I think that was a great question.
Well, thank you. And I think that when you address that head on like that with somebody, right, they're expecting you to say, hey, fill out a maintenance report and then keep walking. You address that with that person. You treated them like a human being and, hey, you listen to them. And a lot of times it's just listening to them, right? Will that guy ever had that where they give this long laundry list and then you go back to the office and then every person comes, no, she never called. Everything was okay. She just wanted to be heard, right? You're like, oh, okay, well, send somebody over there anyway because I think she said this, and they just want to be heard.
Yep. You're completely right. They do. And you're the first person that they can call and complain to. So just listen compassionately. One thing we do as well, though, is I tell them, I'm up front with the tenants and I'll say, listen, there's a lot of problems here, right? You've lived here for a little bit. Yeah, I do know that. Okay. I say, this is what we have to do. We have to attack the big problems first: plumbing, the roof, the parking lot. We have to do those things for the building to function. We're going to focus on those first. So send us an email with not your wish list, but the problems that are wrong in your apartment so that we have a record of it. And when we get done with those big things, then we're going to go over, we're going to focus on that. I'm not going to come in day one and do, certain minor things. Now, plumbing, we'll do plumbing. Yes. Right off the bat, anything leaking, we want to take care of it. But I let them know, and we're upfront and honest with them and tell them, we will fix it, but you got to give us a minute. Let's wrap our heads around this building and go from there.
I liked how you did that. Awesome. Listen, Hartford, you've had your hand up, man. I hope it's not turning blue from being up so long. Go right ahead, sir.
No, I just wanted to jump back to the appraiser that you spoke about. Do you feel that, I just wanted to understand, you were saying, or was your feeling that he kind of rushed through it because it was COVID, or did you feel like this appraiser just wasn't a good appraiser?
I wouldn't say wasn't a good appraiser because we had him on the next building too.
Okay.
And he did a great job. It was directly, I think it was March. So, when the world shut down, he came out to appraise our building. So you got to remember, banks were, like our lender as well, stopped lending. Now we weren't really aware of that till after the fact because the loan took a long time to go. But everyone was, these banks, they don't want to lend money and have the world end, right? They need to know that they can get paid back. Look, 2008, look what happened then. So everyone was didn't know what to do, I think. So I think everyone was kind of hedging their bets and kind of backing away a little bit from it. And also I think a refi, I think they tend to go a little lower on value on a refi than on a purchase.
Okay.
So I think coupled with all that, I don't think he did. I got to give this guy a lot of credit because an appraiser could have said, no, it is what it is. You're stuck with it. He didn't. Mm-hmm. He said, let me look at the stuff and let me see if I made a mistake. That takes a pretty big person to say, you know what, I made a mistake. You were right. So, I give him a lot of credit for listening to us because that really could have set us back. So all along the way, there's these little things we've had to fight for that really could have set us back. And, we're fortunate for it.
Yeah, because I'm listening to your story and I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure you paid a nice penny for the appraiser and then you had to fight to get it set right. I'm like, man, that's that's a lot of time and energy, and you paid this guy to entrust him to do it correctly. But yeah, I completely understand during that time frame, nobody understood what was going on, and it's easy to look back and say, oh, what you should have did, 14 months later. But
yeah,
okay,
keep in mind he's independent too, so which means he doesn't work for me and he doesn't work for the bank, right? He's an independent. It's an independent appraisal. It's supposed to be. So, you know what I mean? Even though I pay him, he doesn't have to perform for me, right? It's independent. So he can do whatever he wants. But it just was some bad information, bad comps. And he probably didn't know that. I knew that because I knew the buildings. I was there day one when we took over on them. I was there when my boss purchased them. So I knew the shape they were in. So, I mean, when I saw the appraisal, I was upset. But I knew, I'm like, I got it. I got him. You know what I mean? How are you going to argue with me? I'm completely right. And I can't always say that, right? Believe me. But I was confident. Let's put it that way. I don't want to sound arrogant, but I was confident that, and I was confident that anyone would be able to look at that and say, you know what? Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You know what I mean? And thank goodness he did. I give him a lot of credit.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Lakes, you have a question?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hi, Grant. A great story. Thank you for sharing it. And can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, okay, cool. So you said your goal is to get 200 per door. Are you there, or is your monthly income and balance sheet is more important for you than the number of units, I guess? Like syndication, I understand people go for 100, 300, 500. That is their goal. So here, I believe you're more about monthly income and balance sheet. Are you able to achieve it?
I have small goals along the way. We're at 41, so 50 is my next small goal, right? Then it's going to be 75, then it's 100. Just things to entice me. 50 units. That to me is like, wow, over 50 units. But what has changed though a little bit is you can't eat units, right? You can eat cash flow. So to us, cash flow is important. They say if you can do $100 a door, you're good on cash flow. That's kind of a target to shoot for. So that's kind of something we shoot for when we're acquiring a building. But we also want to see that rents can go up to here. So on a purchase, I mean, we were thin on buying that building. We were really thin on the cash flow. There wasn't much. But that's something we try to look for. Let's see if we can get the numbers to work out for $100 a door purchase price. Where does that fall? Is it still, is it right at their asking price? And then can we raise that to, can we raise rents, $200 a door after rehab? That's something we look at. But cash flow, definitely now is something like our goal is $10,000 a month cash flow. My goal, my wife's might be different. But my goal is 10,000 cash flow to us a month. And are we there? No, we're not, because 41 units. Now we are hitting on some well above 100. We're probably around 200, probably better on maybe at one building. It all depends. But our second building, remember, we had that big pipe issue, $30,000. So that's got to come from somewhere.
Right.
That came from us. So that building's paying us back. So we're cash flowing on the building, but we're also paying ourselves back a small amount, which is separate from our cash flow. We keep that separate. That has to go back and pay us back, and cash flow is what's left. This building we just acquired, we're not there because we just acquired it. So it's got to come up to the 850. We have some things we need to do to get it up and operational. So, I mean, it might not be operational. It could be 6, could be 8 months. I mean, until it's really stabilized where we want it. But the second building, that'll be, that we still got a little ways to go to pay that back in cash flow. But, the beautiful thing is it's there. We can see it, right? I mean, we see these 3 properties. We know what they're doing. We know the potentiality. So that's a beautiful thing. And the other thing is we're going to refinance those properties. Just like we did the first one. We're going to refinance the first one again too. The first one that gave us $300,000 tax-free. It's a refinance, just like you refinance your home. It's tax-free money, and you can deploy all that money. And that's what we're going to do with the second one. That's what we're going to do with the third one. So there's our growth. So now it's funny because I asked my wife the other day, I said, because in the beginning you have no idea how you're going to grow, what you're going to do. You have no idea, right? No one does. There's no secret formula. And now I asked my wife, you know how we're going to get our next building? And she goes, yeah, same way we got the last one, and I'm like, Isn't that kind of cool to know, though? You know what I mean? We're like, isn't that, it's kind of cool to know.
It's also
that.
too that you have systems or rules of thumb, just like Lakes asked, when you're looking at these buildings, here's how we're going to do this, right? And then you learn those along the way. And that's like the rules of thumb of, cash on cash,
Right.
the cap rate. Those are all things you look at when you're buying these buildings. So then again, that's your business plan that you can execute on or towards that business plan, not just, I'm just going to buy it, see what happens. No, you have a goal, right? It may be, okay, we're going to do this much on cash flow, or we're going to have this much per door. And that's how you do that. And you work towards that. That's awesome that you shared that. Thank you. God, that's interesting. Did that answer your question, Lakes?
Yeah, I have a follow-up question. The building you said you had plumbing issues. Did you do inspection or no?
So yeah, we did. We cameraed drains, and for some reason or another, the plumber couldn't get into every drain.
Oh, okay.
But he just didn't catch it. I'm not blaming anyone, but it just wasn't caught.
Mm-hmm.
We knew there was an issue there. The owner did tell us. Now the owner doesn't have to tell us anything.
Okay.
Because it's a commercial property, so they don't have to disclose. Like on a house, you have to fill out a disclosure. Any water in the basement, anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
On a commercial property, you're on your own. Good luck. So that's why we bring a team in, a roofer. We bring an electrician, our HVAC guy, and our plumber, and we camera all the drains. And he just, I don't know. We couldn't catch it, but the owner said, "Listen, every month or so, I got to snake that drain because there's a backup." So we knew there was an issue there, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just don't really understand until you go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly what it could be. Exactly. I mean, you always think, it could be a pipe, but we cameraed it and it looked okay.
Mm-hmm.
All we saw on the camera, there's a couple of bellies in the pipe, which is okay. Water can still flow through that.
Yeah.
So we thought, I don't know. The plumber said, it looks okay. It's not perfect. It's not pitched perfect. There's a couple bellies, but, so we went ahead with it, but we still would have bought it. We just, if we would have known that, we would have just probably negotiated with the seller. He was reasonable. If we would have showed him that, he probably, definitely wouldn't have paid for the whole thing, but he might have, he might have renegotiated a little with us on it. So he was pretty reasonable.
Can you talk a little bit about your underwriting criteria? Since it's an old building, are you a little more conservative? And now with COVID and stuff, how do you deal with it?
So basically, we just have pretty standard underwriting. We just know how much per unit water is going to be, how much gas if it's a boiler, because we use Constellation for our gas. We don't use DTE here in the area. We use Constellation. It's a little cheaper. So we know per unit what that's all going to break out to. I use Michael Blanc's analyzer. I don't know if you got one or not.
Yeah.
That's what I use. It's pretty good. A lot of people use that. So I just plug those numbers in there. He's got some rules of thumbs that are, are pretty good in there, but you just get to know your area a little bit. And that's what I do. And, an older building, 65. I mean, you got to, most of the time when the buildings are in their 60s and, they're getting sold, they probably haven't been kept up that well. It's probably time for a new parking lot, time for a new roof, maybe time for a new boiler.
Right.
Maybe your zone valves are bad. Your windows are original.
Right.
That's what we've come to see. And those are mom and pop operations. And that's kind of what you're looking for to get a better deal in this market. They're even getting top dollar for those. So it's a little tougher, but yeah, you definitely need to know that going into it. A 1965 building, you're going to have plumbing leaks. Make sure do you have galvanized pipe? You're going to have issues if you got galvanized pipe. Is it copper? Your HWCs, those are heating with cooling. Those are your magic packs. Those are notoriously old all the time. So those are if you look at the outside of an apartment building, you see a square, looks like fins on it. That's your heating and your air conditioning unit. I recommend you get those checked. Those usually are old, 20 years old, and still running. So yeah, there's a lot to look at, but it's like anything. Once you buy a house, Now you know what to look for. You know what to do. You understand it, right? You just got to do it. Once you buy a apartment building, either with, syndication or getting on that way, or if you decide to do it yourself, like we did, once you buy it, now it's a little easier because you've gone through it. And I know what goes on in my area in regards to rent, in regards to expenses. My contractors are in this area, so it just becomes a little easier like anything, but you got to do it,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Which analyzer? The question was EHAB. It's Michael LeBlanc's analyzer. You can find it at themichaelleblanc.com. That's the best place to look for it there. I think it's, I don't know, $150, something like that. But yes, definitely get something there. Before we get too late here, goodness, it's already 8:15. I apologize for keeping it, but this has been great. How can people get a hold of you, Grant? How can they get a hold of you? How can they ask you more questions they have? Let's start there.
So, one good way is our website, my wife and I's. It's warringtoncapital.com. warringtoncapital.com. And there's a contact us form there. You can get a hold of us. The other two ways, Instagram, at Grant Warrington on Instagram. You can say hi there. You can direct message me. And then YouTube, my channel is Grant Warrington. So I do videos on there. I do videos related to being a realtor and videos on how to repair, repairs in apartment buildings and how we do certain things. So there's some fun content on there. So reach out to me in those spaces. And if you got any value out of this too, I ask, please follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'd love that. That'd be great.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you very much for spending almost an hour and 20 minutes with us tonight. I really do. Thank you. Did anybody else have any other last questions? Let me look through the chat here real quick because I do want to respect his time. Let's see here. One person did ask real quick. Okay, there's just information. Good. Going back to the Eckerson asked, are you documenting how their people are moving out? I'm assuming. How do you legally ensure they cannot return? That's the question.
So we have a release of rights to possession. So it's a legal document. They have to sign that. They release their rights to possession. They turn over the keys and they leave the building. So that's how all of our turnovers go with anyone. They have to sign that.
Okay.
And that takes care of that. And during COVID, we never really were affected by COVID. A little bit, just we worked with people. But one of the big things, if you do have tenants, that I don't want to say aren't going on. I don't want to give any kind of legal advice, but one thing because on our second building, we had to get someone out. So when we were taking the building over, we saw they were causing problems for the other tenants. Okay. On our 11 unit, right off the bat, we knew we're like, this is not good. We have good tenants in here. They need to go. So we issued a 30-day notice right off the bat. But it had nothing to do with rent. We just wanted possession back. So we just said, we want our property back. We just want our apartment. You're allowed to give me a 30-day notice when you want to leave. I'm allowed to give you a 30-day notice as well when I want my property back. That's it. Nothing to do with rent. So if it would have went to court, we would have told them they were current on their rent anyway. So it shouldn't have been an issue. But we were just going to say it's nothing to do with rent. We don't care about rent. We just want the property. We want the apartment back. So that's how we did that during COVID.
Interesting. Okay. So that's when you issued the right of, what was it again? I'm sorry.
Release of rights to possession. We gave a 30-day notice, and the day she moved out, we had her sign that. And then that's stating she's done. She no longer occupies the unit. She will not come back. And that's a legal document. So.
Okay. Interesting. Wow. Interesting. So
We do
she
that
left
on all.
on her own. You do that on all of your properties.
Yeah, all of our turnover, if our tenants are, done leasing with us, done staying with us, we have them sign that at the end. So for everyone, no matter what. That's the goal anyway.
Well, again, have to have standards, rules of thumb to work by that, something slips every now and then, but if you get yourself covered, awesome. Well, listen, thank you very much. I appreciate your time and effort. I appreciate everybody else's time here. Thank you, Grant. You shared so many gold nuggets. My pad of paper is full here, and I appreciate that. And thank you very much. I'm very grateful for you coming on and sharing your knowledge. And again, in the chat window, you will be getting a chat log with a link to the recording of this video tomorrow. But if you want to download the chat log right now, open up the chat in those three little boxes or three little dots you see in that box. You can click on that, and then it says Save Chat up at the top, and you can download the chat, and it goes into a text file. I'll send that to you too, but if you can't wait for tomorrow, again, put your information in there so people can get a hold of you and contact you. And that's how this mastermind works. We're looking at partners and stuff like that. And thank you very much. The next mastermind we're going to have is June 2nd. It's 2 weeks from tonight, 7 o'clock. And thank you very much for your time and everybody, and have a great evening and a great weekend. Thank you very much, folks. I appreciate it.